It's D-U-E-U till I see you by this point. You're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it. Let's do it. We gon' make this thing official. You heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit. Man, we about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it. Let's do it. We gon' make this thing official. You heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit. Yeah.
Welcome to Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. And today we're going to take a look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and preview their upcoming NFL season. But before we get started, let's take a look at some of the key storylines heading into the Steelers season as we go into our 4-minute offense. The biggest storyline of 2020 has to be the return of starting quarterback Ben Roethlisberger. The future Hall of Famer missed virtually all of last season after getting hurt in Week 2 against the Seattle Seahawks, where he wasn't even contacted and was just throwing a routine pass and his elbow got injured. Without him, the passing game ultimately suffered as a result, and prior to last season, going back to 2018, Roethlisberger led the NFL in completions, yards per game, and finished with 34 touchdown passes. Yes, he also led the league in interceptions that year with 16, but he still showed that he could play at a high level. In factoring in the offensive line and skill players built around him, despite his age, one could reasonably expect him to get back to Big Ben form, helping guide this offense in the process. And because of that, you have to look at what the offensive expectations could or should be for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The receiving core definitely missed Roethlisberger's ability to hit the deep ball and the consistency of which he plays the game, which stunted the growth a bit for those young receivers, in my opinion. Connor and company would definitely benefit from a consistent, competent passing game that opponents would have to respect, because that would only help alleviate a lot of the pressure off of the run game. And the offensive line and Roethlisberger have played together for so long that they are lockstep in their protections, their sets, their audibles at the line of scrimmage, all of which should raise the expectation level for Pittsburgh hitting the ground running, which probably puts some pressure on offensive coordinator Randy Fichtner to help get this group going from the start of the season. The Pittsburgh Steelers were 5th in total defense last year and got better every week of the season, so much so that they were playing some of their best ball in the last month of the 2019 season, putting them in position for a playoff berth. Now, the hope is that this season they will continue to build on what they started in 2019. 9 of the 11 starters returned, with that 9 being legitimate core pieces of a defense that was 3rd in pass defense, 2nd in interceptions, 1st in sacks, as well as being 5th in points allowed. Pittsburgh did a great job of imposing their will on opponents last season, and keeping with the Steelers' mantra that has been in place since the 70s, they expect that to be more of the same in 2020. Free agency will probably garner a lot of the focus this season for the Steelers. It's two sides of it: potential outgoing free agents and the ones that came into the organization this offseason. Pittsburgh will have to decide what to do long-term with left tackle Alejandro Villanueva and edge rusher Bud Dupree, who signed his franchise tender. Villanueva is entering his prime and fixed to be a high-priority target in a league that values strong pass protectors. Now, Dupree has his own case as well, as the league feels the same way about pass rushers. The Steelers want to work out a long-term deal with the former first-round pick, but they want to make sure his 11.5 2019 sack season wasn't an aberration, but a sign of more things to come. Incoming free agent tight end Eric Ebron and guard Stefan Wisniewski figure to play a prominent role as starters this upcoming season. Now, you look at Ebron, he's coming off of a career rebirth in Indianapolis, where he scored 16 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons after scoring only 11 in the previous 4 with Detroit combined. And Wisniewski played an integral role along the offensive line for the reigning Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, and looks to be a plug-and-play starter, replacing the retired Ramon Foster. Having Ben Roethlisberger back as a starting quarterback makes this entire offense significantly better. Teams can no longer just tee off on the run game because they lack respect for the QB under center. Big Ben can still beat teams with his arm. What we will learn this season is if Father Time has taken away his ability to maneuver within the pocket like we saw once before. He'll also be working with a new QB coach in Matt Canada, which could take some time getting used to. The more intriguing battle this camp will be between reserves Mason Rudolph and Devlin Hodges, who stepped in last year for both an ineffective and hurt Mason Rudolph and played really well. Head coach Mike Tomlin has already stated that Rudolph is the backup, but that could change if Hodges is able to build on the experience that he gained last year when he was an undrafted rookie free agent. In the backfield, the Steelers don't lack capable talents. James Conner dealt with nagging injuries all last season, which limited him to only 464 yards. Conner was coming off of a 2018 year where he ran for nearly 1,000 yards, scoring 12 rushing touchdowns, which is why the Steelers felt good about his prospects coming into last season. Now, injuries are a freak occurrence, but you do have to wonder if he can be a full 16-game starter in the NFL. If not, he's better off as a complimentary guy. Both Benny Snell and Jalen Samuels had opportunities to carry the mail last season, but just didn't provide that same juice to the run game. They are more along the lines of RB2 type backs that can thrive in short yardage, goal line, spot duty type situations that also do a great job of catching the ball out of the backfield. But that's why I'm excited about rookie Anthony McFarland Jr. out of Maryland and what he could bring to the table. He is the most explosive back on the roster, capable of hitting the home run from anywhere on the field. If he can prove that he could be or should be the featured guy, they should let him. At first, he gives him a Deion Lewis type co-pilot to the burly bruisers that they currently have. Adding fullback Derek Watt, who was excellent in LA with the Chargers, should also help the run game fare much better this upcoming season. He was a low-key solid acquisition in free agency. I really like the receiving core for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their starting three are very solid in Juju Smith-Schuster, James Washington, and second-year player Deontay Johnson. What they all share is a knack for the big play, and we didn't get the chance to see a lot of that element of their game last season because of the instability at quarterback. But with the return of ROETHLISBERGER, that should be more of the norm this upcoming year. Outside of those three, the Steelers drafted Chase Claypool out of Notre Dame to be their down-the-seam threat, or maybe even on the outside as a threat, but I view him more as a flex tight end type than a wide receiver. You know, he timed fast at the combine, but doesn't necessarily play that explosive. He is a physical wideout that isn't afraid of contact, which to me is ideally suited to play on the inside. Now, the Steelers do have some speedy options to help provide some help on special teams, but are looking to get more involved in the offense. Guys like Ryan Switzer, Quadre Henderson, and Deion Kane should find specialty roles on an offense that could utilize their ability in the jet sweep game. Now, at tight end, Eric Ebron gives them a legitimate threat in the passing game, something that they've lacked since Heath Miller, in my opinion. I think teaming him up with Vance McDonald will give them a viable 1-2 punch at the position. It will also be interesting to see what strides second-year player Zach Gentry can make this upcoming season. Getting better as a blocker will be his way to find more ticks on the field this year. Pittsburgh is still very strong along the offensive line with Marquise Pouncey, David DeCastro, and Alejandro Villanueva. That's their cornerstone trio that gives them a solid foundation to build an offense around. And you can probably add right tackle Matt Feller's name to those lists of players after this season, because he played really well for them at tackle last year and can play multiple roles up front. The importance of adding Stefan Wisniewski was key in my opinion. It gives Pittsburgh the luxury of having a reliable veteran who has no problem in fitting in like a glove along an offensive line that has the continuity that it does. We saw him do exactly that in Kansas City quite well. But where I'm most excited about the offensive line is with incoming rookie guard Kevin Dotson, the 4th-round pick out of Louisiana. He is just a beast of a blocker in the run game and plays the game with a boyish exuberance that shows in how he attacks each and every rep. He was also stellar down at the East-West Shrine Bowl and could be hard-pressed to keep off the side by season's end. And they do have solid depth across the board with Chukwuma Okorafor, Zach Banner, and center J.C. Hassenauer. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, and the Steelers boast a very strong defensive line led by Cam Hayward, who is one of the best in the league at his position. He is coming off of 3 straight Pro Bowl appearances and has been named first-team All-Pro 2 out of the last 3 seasons. Getting Stephon Tuitt back healthy is going to be huge for Pittsburgh. He's been dealing with injuries throughout his career, but when he has been able to play, he's been impactful. And they lost Javon Hargrave in free agency and was able to sign Chris Wormley from the Baltimore Ravens. I always thought he was underutilized in Baltimore, and he gets the opportunity to prove it with Pittsburgh. He has the versatility, in my opinion, to play across the defensive line. Second-year player Isaiah Buggs is one to keep your eye on this year. He just has a certain dog about his game that makes it hard for teams to keep him on the sideline. I would expect him to garner more time this upcoming season. Now, entering his 7th year in the NFL, nose tackle Daniel McCullers hasn't truly blossomed into a dominant player, although he has a role as a solid run stuffer. Tyson Alualu gives them good depth across the board, and I like undrafted rookie free agent Josiah Coatney out of Ole Miss. His versatility, quite honestly, reminds me a lot of Wormley in the sense that he can play anywhere across the defensive line. At the second level is where the Steelers make their money. This group just consistently reloads and dominates out there on the field. And we'll start on the inside with second-year player Devin Bush, who was as good as advertised as a rookie, filling up the stat sheet, making plays on both ends of defense. So look for him to make the Pro Bowl this year and, quite honestly, for the next decade. Vince Williams is one of the most consistent players that they have, especially against the run, and he does a great job in pressuring the quarterback. He makes a perfect pair with Bush. And I would also expect second-year player Ulysses Gilbert to be more involved within the defensive rotation this year, considering the exit of Mark Barron in free agency. He has a chance to be that guy to take over that role, and he figures to be recovered from a back injury and looks to make a dent into the depth chart. On the outside, TJ Watt led the league in forced fumbles with 8 and chipped in with 14.5 sacks, adding 14 TFLs as well. He has quickly emerged as one of the league's best outside linebackers. Watt does an excellent job in coverage. He broke up 8 passes last season, picking off 2 in the process. Bud Dupree proved to be a solid bookend last year, finally putting together a season that reminded the Steelers why they took him in the first round of the 2015 draft. The 16 TFLs was more impressive to me than the 11.5 sacks, as it shows that he was capable of being consistently good as an all-around defender. Rookie Alex Highsmith out of Charlotte figures to see a lot of time situationally as a pass rusher. That aspect of his game is where he excelled last season in college, racking up 14 sacks last year. One would expect him to take over the role opposite of Watt if they can't come to terms with Dupree on a long-term deal. Ola Adeyemi is looking to prove that he can be a player that'll see a ton of time in rotation. He has a knack for being disruptive, forcing 2 fumbles last year in limited duties. Where the Steelers saw the biggest improvement defensively was in the secondary. This was a sore spot for their defense the last couple of seasons, but getting a great year from veteran Joe Hayden and excellent play from safety Minkah Fitzpatrick, who came over via trade early in the 2019 season, made a big difference. Both ended up with 5 interceptions each, with Fitzpatrick making first team All-Pro. Mike Hinton and Steven Nelson continue to prove to be dependable starters, combining for 19 pass breakups. Pittsburgh wants to see growth from second-year player Justin Lane this season. He gives them their biggest corner, and they hope that he can be a matchup piece defensively. Cam Sutton also factors into the mix as well. He's another one of these players that's a pending free agent who will be looking to cash in on a strong season. It will be great to see Terrell Edmunds continue to improve in his 3rd season. Otherwise, you may start to see rookie Antoine Brooks Jr. from Maryland see the field just a bit more, as he has tremendous football instincts. He would also be another candidate to fill that Mark Barron role as well, because he played closer to the line of scrimmage a lot in college, so he's very comfortable there. I still don't know what to make of Marcus Allen's tenure here in Pittsburgh. He hasn't played much, and you figure that now is the time for him to make himself known. They also re-signed Jordan Dangerfield, who provides valuable assets, or proves to be a valuable asset on special teams and also at safety in a pinch. Every time he's on defense, I feel like he makes a play. Those are the type of players that you definitely want on your football team. Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by 9th and Lux. Visit the website 9thandlux.com and check out the clothing gallery. Do You Music with feature artist IW in his latest release, Mr. Hunter. That's doyoumusic.com. You can also find it available on iTunes as well as Spotify. Nesby Phipps, art, life, entertainment. NesbyPhipps.com. Grind It Out Fitness. Visit the website grinditoutfitness.com and download the app. The Academy of Broadcast Media in Hackensack, New Jersey. Football Game Plan is brought to you in part by Financial Coaching LLC, investment, retirement, security. Stewardship Credit, financial growth is in your hands. Stewardshipcredit.com. Adrienne Marie Photo, photographer, writer, management. AdrienneMariePhotography.com. Lock Multimedia. Be sure to order your copy of the Go-Go Offense by Coach Brennan Marion on footballgameplan.com/GoGoOffense. Coach Marion goes through the ins and outs of his explosive offense, one that's tearing up the college football field and putting a lot of points on the scoreboard. Again, you can order your copy at footballgameplan.com/GoGoOffense. Many will be surprised at how good of a player rookie Kevin Dotson is out of Louisiana. Much of the talk was about his teammate Robert Hunt, but Dotson was equally as good and dominant as Hunt was and will be the talk of training camp this summer. Defensively, look for undrafted rookie free agent corner TRAJAN BANDY out of Miami to surprise. He's a physical player for a guy his stature and has explosive speed. He's a very good blitzer and can mirror and match with wide receivers. Look for Anthony McFarland Jr. to have the biggest impact offensively as a rookie. The more he plays, the more it will become evident that he is the game breaker that they've needed in the backfield since Le'Veon Bell left. Defensively, HIGHSMITH in a situational rush to quarterback role should help him play fast and make a significant impact on that side of the ball. Eric Ebron is the biggest offensive X factor in my opinion. Anytime you can have a threat in the passing game from the tight end position, it just changes things offensively. And when you combine that with what the Steelers possess at receiver, it has a chance to be explosive. Defensively, Chris Wormley being a disruptive force will be huge for this defense. Again, with Tuitt coming off of an injury and with loss of Hargrave, the Steelers need Wormley to be a consistent problem up front. If he can do this, then this defensive front can dominate. Look for Diontae Johnson to have a breakout season this year. We saw the explosive flashes from him as a rookie, and getting Roethlisberger back in the fold should have him take off even further this season. Isaiah Buggs has worked himself up the depth chart and will more than likely garner more opportunities on the field, which should result in him making more plays and becoming a household name by season's end. One of the major reasons for optimism for Pittsburgh is head coach Mike Tomlin. This man has never had a losing season in his head coaching tenure in Pittsburgh. Has won 141 games, 8-7 in the postseason, and already has a Super Bowl victory. He is the reason why the Steelers football team has been as consistent as they've been over the course of his time as a head coach. And the defense, once again, looks dominant. Anytime Pittsburgh has a dominant defense, they're always going to have a chance to win games. We saw this last year when their offense was non-existent essentially throughout the course of the season. And a healthy Ben Roethlisberger definitely gives them a chance to win because that offense will elevate now. It will have more opportunities to get the ball downfield. The run game will be a direct beneficiary of a healthy quarterback being able to take pressure off of it. So those three reasons why I feel like you can have a lot of optimism about Pittsburgh in 2020. A cause for concern would be if the run game still lacks that punch that we used to see from Pittsburgh, being able to have that balance offensively. That run game really has to come ready to play this year and take some of the pressure off the passing game. Otherwise, you have a one-dimensional offense going the whole duration of the season, and it's not playing winning football. And if Big Ben shows up with an extended rust, not just a game or maybe 2 games, but if that rust lasts the entire season and we start to see drop off in his play, it could be a problem for the Steelers in 2020. The road to the Super Bowl for the Steelers goes as follows. Number 1, if Big Ben plays like the Big Ben we saw in 2018 for 16 games, they won't have a problem offensively. And we just spoke about the defense being dominant, and when they are dominant, they go far. If this defense can just stay top 10 with an offense that's playing like they did in 2018 with Big Ben, as healthy as he was then they can definitely have that counterbalance to really go wherever they want to go in the season. If the offense also rediscovers the big play, that is what used to scare you about the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. They could strike with the big play, a short pass going a long way. The run game used to be able to pop big runs. If that offense rediscovers the big play, then the Steelers can find themselves playing bonus football in February. I have Pittsburgh finishing second in the AFC North. This defense, I think, will be even better than what we saw last year. They're a little bit more cohesive as a unit. They've added more playmakers on that side of the ball. Offensively, you get Ben Roethlisberger back, which is already better than what they tried out there last season. So the continuity will be back offensively. So this team will be a tough team to play each and every week and puts them on the outside of perhaps challenging the Ravens for number 1 in the AFC North. So that's it for this edition of Football Game Plan's NFL All 32 show. I am Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of my social media accounts. And don't forget to check out and subscribe to the Football Game Plan Network located at youtube.com/footballgameplan. That's where you can find our NFL All 32 podcast. And keep it locked here on the Football Game Plan YouTube channel, as we will have a ton more of Steeler-related video content coming down the pike in our All 22 show, our fantasy football starting lineup, and our best bets.
It's DUEUT. tell I see you by this point, you're reading my mind. It's time for football. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, man. We about to keep this thing moving. I'm about it, you're with it, let's do it. We gon' make this thing official, you heard me? If you're the best, then let's prove it. The goal is set to have a team become a unit, yeah.